Hello, good evening, welcome to Newsnight. My name is Kenneth Jesse. Here are stories making headlines tonight. The Electoral Commission denies allegation by the minority in Parliament of an attempt to compile a new voters register on the sole basis of the new Ghana card. Crisis looms. Joint health sector unions and professional associations threaten nationwide strike as senior staff of universities of Ghana begin theirs in the latest action yet of series of labor agitation. "67% of Ghanaians strongly disapprove the e-levy." That is according to the latest Afrobarometer survey by the CDD. And later on the international front, U.S. President Joe Biden arrives in the Middle East on his first trip as U.S. President. Details are coming up shortly. Welcome to the program. Now the Electoral Commission is denying allegation by the minority in Parliament of an attempt to compile a new voters register on the sole basis of the new Ghana card. Last Tuesday, at a press conference, the minority leader Haruna Idrisu kicked against what it revealed as plans by the EC to use a CI that will make the Ghana card the sole document for the compilation of a new voters register. So let's go on to the phone lines and speak to Mr. Srebo on this particular issue. Good evening, sir. Welcome to the show. Dr. Srebo, I beg your pardon. Welcome to the show. Is what the minority saying the truth?
Good evening, my brother. I wouldn't want to use the word the truth, but what I want to say is that the commission is not compiling new register, because the 2020 register is very good and a credible register, and we are going to use it for any elections going forward.
Right. So if I understand you clearly, there is no truth, or what you say you don't want to term as truth in what the minority is saying, that the Ghana card will not be the sole basis for a new voters register, correct?
Yes. So let me explain. Now, in 2020, we compiled a new register, so we have around 70 million voters. Now, Ghanaians have been complaining that we spend a lot to compile registers. So why don't we roll out continuous registration, so that when you turn 18, you just go to our office and get your name registered? So what we are doing now is that we have the 2020 register with us. They don't have any issue. But going forward, when anybody turns 18 or anybody who has not registered wants to register, the person will go to our office and he has to prove that he's a Ghanaian with 18 years or above. So I said, and that is when you are going with the Ghana card as proof of your identity, and you'll be added to the existing register.
Okay, so the Ghana card is not directly going to be used as the sole basis for a registration, but you will have to show proof of your Ghana card before you will be allowed to register, correct?
Exactly. For those whose name are not in the register. So we are rolling out continuous registration, so that going forward, anybody who turns 18 can go to our office with a Ghana card and he'll be added to the register.
Okay. And what about those who have their names already captured? Will they have to take their Ghana card for it to be updated?
No, once your name is in the register, you have the voter ID card. So you go to the polling station on the day of voting with your voter's ID card, not Ghana card, because you are already a registered voter.
Okay. So what will actually prompt the minority in Parliament to come out to say that they have hinted that a new CI will be triggered, which will mean that we're going to have to use only the Ghana card as a registration identification?
My brother, I don't think I'm the right person to answer this question, because I wouldn't know why. So I've told you what we are doing, so they will be able to Then maybe they have not seen the law. I don't know, so they will be able to answer that question.
Okay, thank you very much for speaking to us tonight.
You're welcome. God bless you.
Let's now bring you the statement by the Minority Leader, Haruna Idrisu.
Our understanding is that the Electoral Commission is seeking to make the national ID card the only source of justification to register onto the voter ID card as their basis, the voter register. I repeat it, the Electoral Commission is seeking through a constitutional instrument that may come before Parliament, the Subsidiary Legislative Committee and Parliament as an institution to replace the voter register of 2020 and to make the requirement for getting onto the voter register the national ID card as the sole reference document and justification to get onto the national voter register. Our concern primarily is that in the past, since 1993, voter registration exercises that have been undertaken, you normally have the provision of a guarantor of other persons guaranteeing for persons to get onto the voter register insofar as it is established that they are Ghanaian and are of age and of sound mind and to participate in Ghana's electoral process to vote and be voted for. Now, our understanding further, and this is our primary technical concern, is that the national ID card, arguably a public good, is not increasingly available to deserving Ghanaians who deserve to have it. There are many, many Ghanaians who are still struggling to have access to a national ID card legitimately. That public good must be made increasingly available to every qualified Ghanaian.
Away from that, the Senior Staff Association of the Universities of Ghana have declared an indefinite strike over their cost of living allowance. They say they are willing to put their salaries on the line after the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission threatened to freeze their salaries if they continue with their strike.
We don't even need engagement with government. We are expecting the president to speak, to make one-time pronouncements. Take your 20% and go home.
We are on strike. That is the most common catchphrase in the country at the moment. This time, it is a turn of the Senior Staff Association at the University of Ghana, Legon. They too are demanding for a 20% cost of living allowance.
We are announcing to you that we are demanding for COLA. Government is dragging its feet. We met them yesterday. It was no show. Meanwhile, we've served notice on them that today, if we don't hear anything from them positive, we are going to lay down our tools. Yes. And as usual, they met us yesterday, the same crocodile tactics. Teaching staff, stay. Other working staff, excuse us. And this is serious pick and choose.
I am saying this on authority that we had a meeting with Engineer Benjamin Atta at Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. This is not the first time he's saying this. We had a similar meeting with him, and then he told us again that he's ever ready to put his job on the line to ensure that our salaries are frozen.
The Senior Staff Association now add up to the growing number of public service workers who are on strike. Are we to expect more workers go on strike in the coming days? We'll find out. Reporting from the University of Ghana campus, Kenneth Jesse. Right, and there's a joint statement from health sector unions and professional associations, which reads the Ghana Medical Association, the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, Health Workers Union, and Government and Hospital Pharmacists Association, being constitute members of organized labor, made a request to government for 20% cost of living allowance for their members in the light of the prevailing difficult economic situation in the country. It continues by saying, unfortunately, like other members of organized labor, we're yet to receive a favorable response from government. We had hoped that the meeting convened by government with organized labor on 12 July 2022 would have resolved the issue, but the meeting failed to achieve its objective. We therefore serve as notice to government as an employer that if by the 22nd of July 2022, the negotiations on COLA is not completed, the aforementioned health sector unions will have no other choice than to embark on a series of actions as spelled out below, which will in no doubt disturb the industrial harmony within the health sector. It continues by saying that from 25th to 27th July, the wearing of red arm wristbands in all health facilities will be observed. From the 28th to the 31st of July, withdrawal of outpatient department services. And on 1st August 2022, withdrawal of OPD and inpatient services. It concludes by saying, long live health sector unions and associations, long live trade union solidarity. So let's bring you highlights of labor unions demanding 20% cost of living allowance. The first one is teacher unions, which is pre-tertiary. We have the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, Teachers and Educational Workers Union, TEU, Coalition of Concerned Teachers, CCT. Senior Staff Association of the Universities of Ghana. The association has been on strike since today, the 13th day of July 2022. Joint health sector unions and professional association have also threatened to strike. It includes the Ghana Medical Association, Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, Health Services Workers Union of TUC Ghana, Government and Hospital Pharmacists Association. And ultimate deadline is the 22nd of July 2022. So to bring you up to speed on an aspect of the labor agitations, the leadership of the striking teacher unions on Tuesday, July 12, walked out of a meeting with government officials that was to discuss the issues that resulted in the strike. President of the National Association of Teachers, NAT, and the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, and Thomas Musa, respectively, who attended the meeting in Accra, told journalists after stepping out that the government's representatives were insisting that the unions call off the strike before negotiations start. They said they found this as a betrayal of trust, hence their decision to boycott the meeting. It began with teachers. Right, now the Eastern Regional Branch of the Council of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, CHAS, has resolved to recommend the closure of senior high schools in the region to the Ghana Education Service following the council meeting that highlighted challenges facing the free senior high school program. In a statement signed by the regional chairman and secretary of CHAS, they resounded the issue of food shortage that has hit schools for the past 2 years, decrying the supply thereof, which has not been in line with policy directives. They noted that the non-payment and erratic release of funds is pushing them to ask the Ghana Education Service to, as a matter of urgency, get in touch with parents to either feed the wards or pick them home until all the situations are normalized. And the National Council of Parent-Teacher Association is urging government to officially close down schools but allow final year students to temporarily stay at school. Speaking to the PRO of the council, Irene Sam, she stated the integral role PTA plays in ensuring a smooth educational structure and welfare of the students.
To look at the impact of PTAs, we cannot underestimate it. Over the years, PTAs are there as collaborators in education, making sure that we can prevent government efforts. So as you have rightly said, we have done so many things to our credit, all in the name of the welfare of our children. So to this effect of the food shortages, we have also come to realize it. And we as an association or as a council, we are devising ways and means to handle it. And we are calling on government that this free SHS is a good policy, but parents should also be involved. We want to come in and support so that we can have a smooth sail through this policy.
So Kofi Asare is an educationist, and he joins me for a conversation on a wide range of issues that have plagued the education sector. Good to have you join me tonight, Kofi. Let's begin with food shortages in the various senior high schools across the country. Government promised there'll be enough food in the schools by Monday. That was the 11th of July. But 2 days since that deadline, our checks indicate that the students are still struggling for food. How did we get here? Hello, Kofi Asare, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Right, carry on, please. Right, I'm asking how we got to the extent that there are no food supplies in the various schools. Meanwhile, government promised that by Monday, the schools are going to have food, but our checks indicate otherwise. Unfortunately, we've lost Mr. Kofi Asare on the line there. We'll try to reconnect with him and get back to speak to us on a wide range of issues confronting the education sector. Now, 3/4 of Ghanaians disapprove the electronic transaction levy. This is according to the new Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, Afrobarometer survey. This is still to come after the break, but I understand we have Mr. Kofi Asare back on the line. Do we have him back on the line? Good evening. Okay, we've lost him once again, but we'll try to reconnect with him for him to explain to us a wide range of educational challenges currently confronting that sector. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back. Let's go back to Kofi Asare, who is an educationist, to speak to him on the wide range of issues that have confronted the educational sector in the past weeks. Good evening, sir. Welcome to the program. I believe you can hear me now. Hello, Mr. Kofi Asare. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good evening.
Right. Let's start with the food shortages in the various senior high schools. How did we get here?
Well, if you read the release from CHAS, from CHAS Eastern Region, they indicate that it started about 2 years ago. It is simply a distribution, it's simply a disbursement issue. It is not a distribution issue. Contractors are owed funds. They've locked up their funds because they've been supplying food and they are not being paid. They are owed in excess of 300 million Ghana cedis. And so obviously you would expect that there will be supply disruptions once you are owing food supplies. It's as simple as that. It's a financing issue, not a distribution issue.
Right. The Education Ministry indicated that by the start of this week, food was going to be in abundance in the various senior high schools, but our checks, particularly in the northern region, indicate otherwise.
I think we should see an improvement from tomorrow because I guess the consignment moved yesterday. It will take some time.
Right. Let's talk about the strike. The education sector has witnessed a series of strikes. How is this affecting the students? Hello, Mr. Kofi Asare, can you hear me? Do we have Mr. Kofi Asare on the line? I understand we've lost him again on the telephone line, but in the meantime, 67% of Ghanaians disapprove of the e-levy. This is according to the new Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana Afrobarometer survey. According to the researchers, a large majority of Ghanaians think it is a bad idea and will mean a greater tax burden on citizens. We'll go to that story shortly, but I understand we have Kofi Asare back on the line to continue with what he was saying. Kofi, good to have you again on the line.
Yes, what I was saying is that it is a financing issue. It is not a distribution issue. There is an effective distribution system put in place by Bufferstock and the Ministry of Education to ensure that suppliers are able to supply food as required once that particular mechanism is oiled. The situation is that the funds required to engineer that mechanism has not been forthcoming. So once the Ministry of Finance is not disbursing according to the plan submitted to the by the Ministry of Education to aid, you would definitely be expecting that suppliers will not be able to deliver on invoices simply because they've locked up their cash. And I know suppliers that are owed as far back as October last year. So that is a simple explanation of the situation we have. It's a pure liquidity issue. And let me explain this to you. The Free Senior High School budget, okay, about 70% goes into food. So the whole Free Senior High School thing is about 70% feeding. So whenever there is a delayed disbursement of the about 2 billion cedis allocated for Free Senior High School in a year, it impacts most on feeding because the feeding alone is 70%. Now we have a situation where if you look at the structure of the academic calendar, averagely, Bufferstock, for instance, will require 100 million every month between February and November to pay suppliers and ensure that there are no disruptions to the supply.
Okay.
Immediately you don't get 100 million every month, and average 100 million every month, there will be disruption.
Okay.
And we have a situation where the last time they received about 100 or so was early in May. We are in July. And so definitely you'll be hearing the stories you're hearing. So it's not a distribution problem. There's food in the country. It is a financing problem.
Okay, Kofi, let's now talk about the strike that has plagued the education sector. It has witnessed a series of strikes in the last few weeks. As an educationist, how do you think this is affecting students?
Well, I'm after an education policy person. I'm not an education. But, our concern is threefold. The first is that we are just coming out of COVID lockdown. There's a huge learning loss that occasioned the closure of schools for about 9 months. And our teachers are working with the GES and parents and students to ensure that we fully catch up with the learning loss that that occasioned the closure of schools in the COVID, period. The second is that the school environment, as you see, is a safe haven for a lot of students. There are communities where girls, for example, are not safe in the household during the day when their parents are gone to the farm or not going to work. And then the safest place to be is in the school environment where there's protection. So not having schools running has a social implication. The third is this. Again, the school environment serves as a safe haven for proper nutrition for a lot of students. The Ghana School Feeding Program exists to provide millions of children 1 square meal a day to enhance their nutrition, mainly because in many communities, a square meal is a problem. So when schools are closed, school feeding kickers are unable to deliver their food, and a lot of pupils will go hungry. Lastly, we are getting close to examination. WASI is starting from 1st August. WASI is starting from 1st August. It is less than a month away.
Okay.
BECE starts in September. In all these two examinations, teachers play a key role as invigilators, and if you like, they facilitate the process. And so if teachers are on strike at this point, it will definitely not be the best in terms of planning for WAEC. And that is why we are concerned about the strike.
Okay. Mr. Kofi Asare, grateful for your time tonight. He's an educationist. In other stories, 67% of Ghanaians disapprove of the e-levy. This is according to the new Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana Afrobarometer survey. According to the researchers, a large majority of Ghanaians think it is a bad idea and will mean a greater tax burden on citizens.
Ghanaians don't have confidence in the ability of the state, the government, to manage even the little they collect on our behalf. When it happens that way, to the extent that there's a way to avoid it, we'll choose that as the first option. But we should just know that from day one, it was poorly conceived, and this is not a tax handle you introduce at this time. It doesn't meet the basic principles of taxation in economics. So it's very difficult to situate the tax both at the policy level and implementation. It's not only at the policy level, even implementation, you're going to have a lot of challenges and all of that. So it's a no-go area. And I still think that government needs to withdraw it. The state, in its quest to raise more money, should not become an armed robber. And this is nothing less than stealing, right? If you look at the various dimensions, at the time it was introduced, the issue of exemptions wasn't conceptualized. So now we have to accommodate that and all of that. This is what will happen. And I'm not prophesying, I'm not a prophet. You know, when citizens actively engage in methods, strategies, coping strategies to avoid a tax handle, and they succeed, they will extend that to other progressive tax handles and see whether they can try other progressive tax handles in the same way. And then tax avoidance and other things will complicate. Then what it also does is to undermine confidence in state institutions that the Constitution protects and all of that. So please, let's not put ourselves to that test. There are other progressive tax handles that we can use to raise a lot more money without burdening the faithful few.
Let's now bring you more insight on the findings of the survey. And it says 3/4 of Ghanaians disapprove of the e-levy, including 67% who strongly disapprove of it. Only 2 in 10 Ghanaians endorse the new tax. A similar proportion, that is 76%, think the e-levy is a bad idea because it will increase the tax burden on the poor and ordinary citizen. This includes 63% who strongly agree with this view. 3/4 are also not very confident, that is 24%, or not at all confident that the government will fulfill its pledge to use the revenues generated by the e-levy to fund development programs. Faced with the e-levy, Ghanaians are about evenly split as to whether they will continue to use electronic financial transactions or avoid using them. A majority of Ghanaians agree that there are several important goals that a tax revenue system must achieve, including ensuring that people understand the taxes they owe, reducing the tax burden, using tax revenues more effectively, and ensuring that citizens and businesses also pay tax. Now, a Deputy Minister at the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry, Benito Owusubio, has led a team to undertake a demolition exercise on a land belonging to the state that has been encroached upon by private developers at East Legon.
The mandate of one, protecting government land, and also to ensuring that all developments, especially on state and government lands, should conform to well-planned schemes. Yes. The government lands must not be left for people to develop and turn them into slums. Also, we should not sit down for people to just encroach on government lands and take them as their own private property. That shouldn't be the case. The land has been acquired by government for public use for now and also future and for posterity as well. So it's important. We've all come here, you've seen how the place looks like. Most of the developments here have been done without any planning scheme. It's now that Lands Commission has been able to come out with a planning scheme that has been approved by the local assembly, Yawaso West Assembly. And as such, whatever is happening here, we've told all of them to put a stop to it so that at least we ensure that those who need to be regularized in terms of acquisition would also be done. And those who don't need to be here would just make sure that at least they also move out here. This would be continued to be done.
Inflation for June is now 29.8%. Winston Taki will be here to explain to us what it means after the break.
Welcome back to Newsnight Live on Metro TV. My name is Winston Taki, and now to our first business story. The Executive Director for the Institute of Economic Affairs, Dr. John Kwachi, says the Bank of Ghana's policy rate adjustment needs to be reviewed in order to employ more economists.
Inflation for June accelerated to 29.8% from the 27.6% that was recorded in May. And this tends to affect investment, especially on fixed income, as well as stocks. And with rising inflation, what it does is that it actually erodes the purchasing power of investment income. So if, say, you invested 10,000 today for the 91-day treasury bill at a rate of, say, 25%, and therefore expecting returns of about 600 Ghana cedis, which presently could buy you, let's say, a box of tomatoes. In about 3 months, when the investment matures, you would realize that the price of the tomatoes will no longer be 600, but somewhere around 650 cedis. And this means that the purchasing power of the money as you are holding has actually reduced. And in the same way, we are on a fixed income, especially with our salaried workers. Assuming you are on a salary of, let's say, 2,000 Ghana cedi a month, which can purchase 5 bags of rice as we speak. And by rising inflation, it will get to a point where you can only purchase just about 4 bags with the same 2,000 Ghana cedi because the cost of goods have actually increased. We can actually make similar analogies with transport and other services, meaning when inflation actually rises, the price of goods and services also increases, whereas your income or your salary remains constant, which remains the case most of the time. And that actually leaves you worse off in terms of living conditions. The Bank of Ghana have always adopted an inflation targeting framework that is actually underpinned with a flexible exchange rate regime. And this is not working because external forces are actually throwing our exchange rates overboard. So the inflation targeting framework, which is actually designed to ensure price stability over the short term to medium term, cannot actually compete with the rate of exchange loss. Therefore, inflation control is more or less unrealistic.
That was Christian Tichijan giving us insight on the impact of the 29.8% inflation rate on investment globally. Now, the Executive Director of the Institute of Economic Affairs, Dr. John Kwachi, says the Bank of Ghana's policy rate adjustment to control inflation was only effective in bigger economies, unlike Ghana.
Ghana has a history of high inflation compared to our peers in Africa and elsewhere. Occasional oil price shocks, coupled with multiple taxes and levies in the domestic price build-up, fuel inflation from time to time. Speaking on the theme, Rethinking Inflation Management in Ghana in the Wake of COVID-19 and Russia-Ukraine War. The Director of Research of the Institute of Economic Affairs, Dr. John Kwachi, says the Bank of Ghana's use of the policy rate has a ripple effect on businesses due to high interest on loans.
The policy rates and the inflation targeting framework, it is more effective in a developed country context than a developing country context. This is what we call the transmission mechanism of monetary policy. It's a bit slow in a developing country. The business people will attest to the fact that as soon as the policy rate is raised, the banks, pass on the increase in when they go to borrow, they will experience a high cost of credit.
He further called for a review of our economic structure.
In a country like Ghana, wages, incomes are generally low. Most people live virtually from hand to mouth. Consequently, effective demand is low. People don't have enough, their incomes are not adequate. So it is very difficult then for you to blame them, for causing inflation. Everybody is clamoring for more, higher wages because what they have is not enough. So if you tell them that, it's your higher incomes that is causing demand pressures and inflation in the economy, I don't think they are going to, buy that.
Meanwhile, the former Minister of Works and Housing, Samuel Atacha, blames the current inflation pressures to global phenomena.
We talk about inflationary pressures that have been exacerbated well over. We are not having a very positive discussion because every situation will determine the ramifications. So from my perspective, the inflationary pressures we are discussing in Ghana have some externalities that we can't control. They call it in law force majeure. This is where we are. So.
Now, away from that, news coming in is that the IMF has concluded its meeting with the government of Ghana, and we would like to give you updates to that regard. At the conclusion of the mission, Mr. Zradlovic, who leads the IMF team to Ghana, issued a statement saying that Ghana is facing a challenging economic and social situation amid an increasing difficult global environment. According to him, the fiscal and debt situation has severely worsened following the COVID-19 pandemic. At the same time, investors' concerns have triggered credit rating downgrades, capital outflows, loss of external market access, and risk domestic borrowing costs. In addition, the global economic shock caused by the war in Ukraine is hitting Ghana at a time when the country is still recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic with limited room for maneuver. These adverse developments have contributed to slowing economic growth, accumulation of unpaid bills, a large exchange rate depreciation, and a surge in inflation. The IMF team held discussions on the best way to help restore the macroeconomic sustainability and also the debt-related issues of the country. We'll bring you more updates on this in our subsequent bulletins. That'll be all for business here on News 9. My name is Winston Taki. Sports is up next after this break. Stay tuned.
My name is Phil John Quarter, and it's time for sports. Come tomorrow in the nation's capital, one of the Africa's greatest footballer ever, Mohamed Polo, that's Ghana's Mohamed Polo, will be launching his book about his life and the state of Ghana football. He's in the studio for us to talk about the book and the state of Ghana. For Mohamed, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Phil.
The man known as the dribbling magician will tell us more about his book. But for now, what do you make of the state of Ghana football?
No, I think Ghana football has come of age, and we're expecting it to go, even higher. Fortunately, we've qualified to the World Cup, But for some time now, it looks as if, our football is, coming down.
Yeah.
The quality looks, a little bit unimpressive, especially if you look at.
What do you think has accounted for this? What do you think has accounted for this stage?
I think it's very simple. The simplest thing is about, we have to go back, to our source. That is, our brand of football. And we were playing a brand of football before, and that won us the, laurels at the nation's, cups. We even started well with in under 17, and we came to under 20. Even qualified to the World Cup 3 consecutive times.
So you think that if we play our kind of football, we'll progress?
Yes, we don't have to take somebody's way of life that you think it will help you, especially football.
Okay.
So we have to go without brand of football. That is our goal. Okay. And I think there is a way to go about it.
Okay, let's talk about tomorrow's program, launching your book. Why are you trying to tell us about yourself? We already know about it. Why are you launching a book tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it's a lifetime issue. And when the opportunity comes, you have to let the generation that is coming to know that there was, somebody like that, and who they can emulate, and then even do it better than, because there is even a better advantage than what we have. And if there is a better, it means they have to work hard. There is nothing that comes on a silver platter. What I'm able to do, even under a very peculiar circumstances, I was able to play above myself. So why can they do it? So I need to let everybody know that there is the possibility to be able to do it and do it even better.
What entails in this very book? Or what should we expect in this very book before you get launched tomorrow?
A lot.
Break it down for us.
A lot. There are certain important.
Is it about your life history? Is it about where you play football? What is it about? What wraps up in the book?
Yeah, it's all calculated into it. From where I started, where what I did, and what I was aspiring, and a lot of things that went on that people got to know, so that it can, especially the youth, so that it can inspire them and inspire them the way I think football has to go.
Okay, well, just before we go away, you can't be here without talking about your darling club, Accra Hasselhoff. You are not happy with the coaching aspect. What do you make of what you're seeing with Hasselhoff presently? You did very, very well, 1 minute laurels with them. What do you think is the state of your team now?
I think it's something that needs continuation. And if it's not common, it means there is something wrong, and we have to find a solution, and not one person. Everybody has to get involved. But what is really disturbing is that it's always we want to spoil something and get it repaired, instead of developing on something, standing on something, on growth, so that it will develop to another level. Because what we have done, we were expecting, the younger ones
to do better.
To do better by taking an inspiration.
Probably the last question before we let you go. Certainly time is not on our side. Hasselhoff, the last time they went to Africa, it was a disaster. You and I know very well. They're going back again to the Confederation Cup. What should they do? Certainly they'll be led by Samuel Buedo. What should they do to this time around to impress?
Life is a learning process. If you go into something and have the feeling and get the idea what went wrong, That is why you have to, ensure that this time you have to get it right.
How can they get it right?
Yes, you have to work and add some value. Because football, there are three departments. The goalkeeping side, the defensive side, the midfield, and the finishing side. Where, did you find yourself wanting? You try to put it together, but football is a teamwork, and then get it going and get the result that we want. But football, it has to be free-flowing in football, and football is only one football that is played. So if you cannot get more of the ball, the one ball that is being played, then you have a problem.
We are wrapping up. Last question in 30 seconds. Will Ghana do very well at the World Cup in Qatar? Will it do very well?
I think it will depend on the coach, philosophy.
Okay.
It's very, very important. We even qualified to the World Cup because of the coach, philosophy that he brought. That helps us. And with the help of VAR, otherwise we wouldn't have qualified. So it has shown him very clear, giving him idea that he has to go with a philosophy that will help him because, the predecessors, have done it before.
Okay.
So he has to, ensure that he gets it, on
Mohamed
top.
Polo, thank you very much. Tomorrow we'll be there to support. I've been speaking to Ghana's football legend, Mohamed Polo, about the book launch tomorrow. That's your sports. My name is Phil John Quarty. I see you are standing by for the latest in showbiz. But let's go for a commercial break now. When we come back, she'll do that.
Stakeholders were hit with the news of the demise of one of Ghana's contemporary vocalists, A.B. Crenshaw. Now, speaking to Metro News earlier during a phone-in, the acting president of Musicians Union of Ghana, Musica, Bessa Simmons, expressed how the union will be handling this news.
Okay, thank you. I mean, it's early days yet. It just happened this morning. The family are sitting down, and once things are done and the way is clear, I mean, Musica will go and greet the family and then give them our personal, condolences. A.B. Crenshaw is not just a musician. He is a former, immediate past, I think, vice president, for Musica. He's also been the chairman for Aged Musicians Welfare Fund. So, I mean, he is a very important person when it comes to Musica. So we will be following what the family will do, and any parts that we have to play for him to get a fitting burial or anything that will dignify our hero will be done. Musica will make sure we lead that group.
Bessa Simmons continued by sharing the plans the union has for the welfare of legends in music and their families.
We introduced a life insurance scheme where a lot of musicians, signed on to with a lot of benefits. This year we are renewing it even with more benefits. But you have, like insurance, you have to pay. Last year we paid 50 cedis for a year, and you had all the benefits, hospital bills. If you yourself, you can't work again. If you lose a partner, and all kinds of things. And on your demise, also what will be due to. This time we are going further with more benefits. Your wife, your children will be included, and for 100 cedis a year, you get all these benefits. On top of that, I personally realized that for a long time, musicians in general have not been doing what we call pensions. So we have engaged the pension organizations that who run the pension schemes. And as we speak, we've got one that has started sensitizing the members. So we're organizing workshops for him to explain, the pension to our members. So, I mean, very soon, all musical members will have a pension. And if all music members have a pension, which means musicians have a pension that everybody can join, which means at the age of 60 or 65, you will have pension, the pension will be paid to you until, you die. So, I mean, these are some of the measures we have put in.
Well, that's it for entertainment news. My name is Asiodwa Akunia. Kenneth?
See you, Asiodwa, and thanks for the entertainment update. International news is next. U.S. President Joe Biden has arrived in Israel at the start of a landmark regional tour, which will include a controversial visit to Saudi Arabia and also a time to meet the Palestinian president as well as Israeli and Saudi leaders.